He saw me when no one else did. I'll tell this story the way I remember it. Because sometimes life doesn't change loudly or dramatically. It changes quietly, on an ordinary evening when you weren't even planning to fall in love. My name is Anna. I work in the analytics department of a large company. Tables, charts, numbers, reports. My desk is always neat. A notebook, a pen, a mug of chamomile tea, and a small cactus I named Oscar. To be honest, people at work hardly notice me. I don't wear bright clothes. Most days it's simple blouses, a cardigan, my hair tied back in a ponytail or a bun. Minimal makeup. I speak softly, listen more than I talk. Colleagues usually describe me as reliable or quiet, and in my head, I always think, just a gray mouse. The only person who sees me differently is my friend Megan from accounting. Megan is my complete opposite. She's tall, striking, with thick chestnut hair that always looks like it belongs in a shampoo commercial. Bright lipstick, heels, stylish dresses, confident steps. When she walks into a room, people turn. But behind all that brightness, she's one of the warmest people I know. Anna, you're not gray. You're just soft light, and soft light is always beautiful, she told me once. I just smiled back then. One day during lunch, Megan rushed up to me with a mysterious look on her face. I got asked out, she whispered. That's not news, I laughed. No, this time it's serious. Steven from logistics. I knew him. Tall, confident, always walking fast through the halls, constantly on the phone. Are you going? Megan paused. I told him I'd only go if you come with me. What? A double date? He's bringing a friend. You're coming. Megan, no, I'm not. I mean, I'm just. Anna, enough. You're beautiful. People just don't see it. And you don't see it either. I resisted for a long time. But Megan knows how to persuade me. On the day of the date, I stood in front of the mirror in my apartment, nervously smoothing the edge of my dress. Dark blue, soft, gently fitted at the waist. My hair down. I rarely wear it like that. A little mascara, light blush, lip gloss. I looked different, even to myself. It's still me, I whispered to my reflection. We met outside a small café restaurant with warm yellow lights glowing through the windows. Steven was standing near the entrance. Next to him was a man I had never seen before. Dark hair, slightly messy. A gray shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Calm, thoughtful eyes. When we walked up, he looked at me, and seemed a little confused. Hi, I'm Paul, he said. Anna. He tilted his head slightly. Do we work together? We do, I smiled softly. Analytics. His eyes widened. You're serious? I thought. I mean, there's a different girl there. I laughed. I look a little different at the office. If I'm honest, very different, he said quickly, then added, and that's a compliment. For the first time in a long while, I felt my cheeks warm, not from embarrassment, but from something pleasantly unexpected. At dinner, Steven and Megan quickly found their rhythm. They laughed, joked, talked about travel. Paul and I started talking too, and somehow, we just didn't stop. It turned out he doesn't like loud crowds either. He enjoys quiet evenings at home, old movies, long walks without headphones. He works in logistics but once wanted to become an architect. And you? He asked. I like order. And when things make sense. That's why analytics. And you listen very carefully. I was surprised. Is that a bad thing? No, it's rare. We talked about small things. Favorite coffee, rainy days, childhood dreams, first jobs, the fear of speaking in front of people. Time passed without us noticing. When we stepped outside, Megan and Stephen had already decided to go somewhere else. "We're heading out," Megan winked at me. "What about you two?" Paul looked at me. "May I walk you home?" I nodded. It was cool outside. Streetlights reflected on the wet pavement after a light rain. We walked slowly. "You know," Paul said after a while, "I realized something tonight." "What?" "There are people at the office everyone notices. And there are people you have to really see." I stayed quiet. "And when you finally see them, they turn out to be the most interesting ones." I felt something warm spread inside my chest. We stopped near my building. The silence wasn't awkward. It was calm, gentle. "Can I ask you out for coffee? Just the two of us this time?" he asked. I smiled. "Yes." He hesitated for a second. "And, Anna?" "Yes? I really liked that you were yourself tonight." I answered softly. I was. When I stepped inside my apartment and closed the door, I stood there for a few seconds, leaning against it. And for the first time in a long time, I thought, maybe I was never a gray mouse. Maybe no one had looked closely enough. And tonight, someone did. And it felt like the beginning of something more. Our first real date was 3 days later. Paul texted me that morning. "Coffee on Saturday. But not a regular one. Trust me?" I was more nervous than I wanted to admit. I spent way too long choosing what to wear. In the end, I picked a light sweater, jeans, and the small drop earrings Megan had given me. When I stepped outside, he was already there. "Hi," he said, holding my gaze for a moment. "I think I'm starting to get used to the fact that you're beautiful." I laughed, but something warm spread inside me. He took me to a small café on a quiet street. It smelled like cinnamon and vanilla, soft music was playing, and there were plants by the window. "I thought you'd like a place that isn't loud," he said. He was right. We talked for hours. About childhood. About how he used to draw buildings in all his notebooks. About how I was always afraid to speak in front of the class even when I knew the answer. After coffee, he smiled. "Now comes part 2 of the plan." We walked to a park. It was chilly, and when the wind picked up, he quietly took off his scarf and wrapped it around my neck. The gesture felt so natural, like we had known each other for years. After that day, we started seeing each other often. Everything happened quietly, naturally. He brought me coffee at the office, sometimes just placing it on my desk with a note, "For the most attentive person here." We took walks after work, cooked dinner together. One evening, while chopping vegetables, he said, "I like the way you move at home. You create comfort around you." That's when I realized, with him, I wasn't afraid to be myself. And then Claire appeared. It happened one evening when I came to the logistics department to give Paul some documents. He was standing near his desk, talking to a very beautiful woman. Tall, confident, stylish. She touched his arm and laughed. Something tightened painfully in my chest. He saw me. "Anna, wait," but I already felt small again. Like the same invisible girl. That evening he called me. "That was Claire," he said right away. "My ex." Silence. "She came back to the company. But there's nothing between us. Not for a long time." I tried to sound calm. "She's very beautiful. Anna," he said softly. "Look at me. I chose you." We met that same evening. Standing with him in the park, I finally admitted. I was scared. That next to her, I'm just ordinary. He stepped closer. "You're not ordinary. With her, Things were easy. With you, they're real. He took my hands. Claire is my past. You're where I want to go. And for the first time, I hugged him first. Tightly. That evening we sat on a bench for a long time. We talked about fears, past relationships, about how afraid we were of losing something that mattered. After that, there was more trust between us. More warmth. More us. A few weeks after the situation with Claire, Paul said one evening, "My parents are having a barbecue on Sunday. And I want you to come with me." My heart made a small jump. Is this meeting the parents? He smiled. Yes. And they already know you're special. I was nervous all Saturday. I spent forever choosing what to wear and even baked a lemon cake. Megan said it felt homey and very you. On Sunday we drove out of the city. Paul held my hand the whole way, gently squeezing it from time to time. "It's going to be okay," he said softly. "They're kind. And they're going to love you. Just like I." He stopped suddenly, like he had almost said too much. I looked at him, but he just smiled and focused back on the road. His parents' house was surrounded by a green yard with apple trees. The smell of smoke and grilled food filled the air. His mother came out first. "Anna," she said warmly, as if we'd known each other for years. "I'm Martha." She hugged me gently and sincerely. His father, Thomas, stood by the grill. "So this is the girl who made him start smiling all the time," he said with a friendly grin. I felt my nervousness slowly melt away. Martha showed me the garden and told me how Paul, as a child, used to build houses out of boxes and draw plans for a doghouse they didn't even have. He always wanted to create spaces where people feel good, she said. "And you know, next to you, he looks exactly like that." During lunch, Paul quietly touched my hand under the table several times. Small, silent gestures, but they made me feel calm. When we were about to leave, Martha said softly to me, "Thank you for being in his life. He hasn't been this happy in a long time." On the drive back, we were quiet. The sun was setting, the lights soft and golden. "They really liked you," Paul said. "They're wonderful," I answered. Suddenly, he pulled the car over near a small lake. "Let's step out for a minute." We stood by the water. It was quiet, just the breeze and the smell of grass. Paul turned to me. "I watched you with my family today, and it felt right. Like you've always belonged there." He paused. His voice grew softer. "Anna, I love you." The world seemed to pause. My eyes filled with tears, but inside there was only warmth. Calm, deep warmth. "I love you too," I whispered. He pulled me into his arms, and for the first time, I didn't feel nervous or uncertain. I felt safe, like I was home. A year has passed. Sometimes I think about that evening outside the café, when Paul didn't recognize me. Back then, I could never have imagined that 1 year later we would wake up together in our small apartment, where mornings smell like coffee and evenings feel calm and safe. Our life became quiet and warm. He makes coffee every morning, always with a small heart in the milk. I leave notes in his bag. "Have a good day. I love you." We learned to live together not loudly, but gently. Through small things. Through care. One spring morning, Paul said, "I have an idea. Let's make our wedding small. Just the people closest to us." I looked at him and knew. That was exactly what I wanted. Our ceremony took place a month later. A small garden outside the city. Blooming trees. White chairs. Soft music. The air smelled like spring. Megan helped me with my dress. It was simple, light, soft, without extra details. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see a gray mouse. I saw myself, calm, happy. "You're light," Megan whispered, hugging me. When I walked into the garden, Paul was already there. He looked at me as if no one else existed. His parents, Martha and Thomas, sat in the front row. Martha was already wiping away tears before the ceremony even started. My mom held my hand before I walked out. "He looks at you the way a husband should," she said softly. The ceremony was simple. No unnecessary drama. Just words that mattered. "When it was time for vows," Paul said, "a year ago, I asked you out for coffee. And I found a home." My heart trembled. I answered, "My whole life I thought I was invisible. Until you saw me. And since that moment, I've known. Love makes us real." When he placed the ring on my finger, his hands were slightly shaking. After the ceremony, we had a small celebration. A long wooden table in the garden. Warm string lights. Homemade food, laughter, hugs. Martha hugged me and whispered, "Welcome to the family, sweetheart." Thomas raised his glass. "To the woman who gave my son his peace back." Megan cried more than anyone. That evening, as the guests began to leave, Paul and I stepped aside for a moment. The string lights glowed between the branches. The air was warm. "Do you remember when you said you were a gray mouse?" he asked softly. I smiled. "Yes." He wrapped his arms around me. "You were never gray. You were just light, waiting to be seen." I rested my head on his shoulder. And for the first time, I realized, life didn't become a fairy tale. It became something better. Quiet, stable, filled with love, and that was the most beautiful thing of all.